it's very natural for someone, especially if they see creatures, to sort of say, "Oh, that's Bigfoot walking on my roof." The thing about that, though, that's all poltergeist activity. It happens with poltergeist cases, and poltergeist activity surrounds every aspect of the paranormal. Whether you're talking about people who are into the occult or UFO activity, ghost activity, poltergeist activity always pops up around this stuff. So, a lot of times I wonder, is it Bigfoot walking on your roof, or is this poltergeist activity that is also associated with Bigfoot, which seems to be the case. The people have had stones thrown in their house, people with poltergeist activity, they pick them up and they're warm, and they can't explain it in the house. If it happens in the woods, people say, "Oh, Bigfoot threw a stone at me." Now, in your case, it seems pretty logical, like there was a Bigfoot and the stone got thrown, But I think sometimes there's this kind of dual activity going on. There's this kind of poltergeist activity that accompanies the Bigfoot phenomenon. Mainly, a lot of people are in, like, I've gone to really tiny houses, and people have said these huge creatures have been on top of their house. I'm thinking it would have put its leg through your house. I believe what they're telling me. I believe they heard something walking on the roof, but it's just another one of those factors that makes me think there's something else going on. There's something paranormal associated with Bigfoot.
Now, do you think they can project stuff out? Like a friend of Ron Moorhead, when they were in the tent, he swore up and down. Now I remember what he said. He heard a trunk of a car slam shut. Now, there's no roads around there at all. And they've been going to that one camp they had for like 20 years. So they know the area very well. They had to actually take mules in, pack into their camp that they were going to every year, to make their Bigfoot sounds and, record it. So I'm just wondering if they tap into your brain or not. Now, some people got really mad at me the other day, and I said, do you ever think that when people maybe have been abducted by aliens, for example, they kind of like scan your brain and find out what type of things you might be scared of or could be scared of, and they use that, like I had a guy on my show who did a book on a game warden that did a book on owls, and he had an encounter where he saw grays walking towards his bedroom, then come into his bedroom, and that's all he remembered. But then all of a sudden, he started seeing owls after that. And, I said, well, yeah, you wrote a book on owls, but do you ever think that when you were abducted, maybe that, or whatever they did with you, they kind of scanned your brain and figured, well, oh, this guy has something to do. He likes owls. So, well, when he sees one of us again, it won't be one of us. It'll be an owl.
Are you asking me, do I think Bigfoot can do the same thing?
Well, I'm saying maybe Bigfoot isn't Bigfoot either. It could be something else. And
oh, yeah, absolutely. It could. And, it's possible that, where one person would see a Bigfoot, maybe another person would see a gray alien. I don't have any strong answers. I'm willing to, a friend of mine put it very nicely about me in the intro to my latest book. He said, I'm like, Tim's willing to sit with the mystery. And that's absolutely the case. I don't have answers, but I love the questions. And I'm willing to consider all of this stuff because, I think that's how we get closer probably to the answers. But, yeah, I have often wondered that because, I've heard many stories where people will go out, say, looking for UFOs, and they're out looking for UFOs, and they'll see a Bigfoot, or they'll go out looking for Bigfoot, and they'll see a ghost, or something like that. And you wonder if it's not, manifesting according to something else that's going on, either in the back of their brain, or if it's a sort of a trickster type phenomenon.
Well, I know this has been going on a long time because Muckleshoot Indian tribe up here, near the Tacoma, Washington area. I got back a few years ago, I got to know the medicine woman. They didn't have a medicine man, but they had a medicine woman. And I got to know her because my daughter married into the tribe. And I started asking questions about Bigfoot. And she started talking about generations and generations back. We started going back a couple hundred years, with them. And she was telling me these stories, like where the the women would be going down to the river to do, the laundry. They would take their babies down there with them, and all of a sudden, a bunch of Bigfoot would come right after them, get one of the squaws or run off with the baby. And then, the men would go and try to track down the Bigfoot. A lot of times what they would find was remains, of their loved ones. And she would said that Bigfoot was cannibals. They were cannibals. They ate humans. And when I tell that to other people, they look at me. No, they're warm and fuzzy. They would never do that. But I mean, this is one Indian tribe, going back. And also, then when she said that, I started researching some other tribes about Bigfoot, and I was finding the same thing.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me about the Native American folklore on what we consider Bigfoot now is it changes by the tribes, and a lot of people in the cryptozoology community will put more weight on anything a Native American says than anyone else, and that's fine. They've been here, they were here for hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years before we were. So absolutely, let's consider what they're saying. But I find it very interesting that across America, if you go from tribe to tribe, their teachings change on this creature. And some of them say it's a cannibal in the woods. Absolutely. Some of them say it's a natural creature. Some of them say it's a spiritual being. Some of them say it's like more like a ghost. Which really kind of mirrors the modern Bigfoot community right now. I find that very humorous because they were just as undecided on what these creatures were as the modern Bigfoot community is really divided amongst those who believe it's interdimensional, those who believe it's tied to aliens, those who believe it's just a natural ape in the woods, et cetera, et cetera. So the more things change, the more they stay the same.
I know. The only thing I can say is what I saw, but again, I don't know really what it was. I didn't have a chance to shake its hand or try to communicate with it. All I know is it chased us. I really, people ask me, well, hey, can you give us a good detail what it looked like? Well, I can tell you honestly this. If you have something that big coming after you, you're not going to sit there and try to eye what it looks like. You got one thing in your mind, and, and that is get the hell out of there.
Right. How many times have you been asked why didn't you take a picture?
Oh God, so many times. You would never, Timothy, believe it. And I had a camera around my neck. I had one of the very first digital SLRs available, 1.4 megapixel back those days. And I could have turned around and took a picture, but you think I even thought about that? No,
right, exactly.
The only thing I thought about was getting to the car and getting out of there. And
right, yeah, and it's usually the last thing people think about. When I was asked why I didn't take pictures of those lights, well, we tried and they turned out awful. You can't. They come out as pin lights in the darkness. You need something with a really long exposure time, I think, to capture them. But I've seen I saw something again, and this was in another area. This was in that Toad Road area. I was hiking there one day. I heard a noise. I looked up. I saw something. It was something big, but it was quick and quiet. And I can't tell you what it was. It was moving quadrupedally. It wasn't bipedal. But there was taking out my cell phone and trying to get a picture was the absolute last thing I thought of. I was way too busy observing this thing. And if I could have whipped it out quickly enough to get a picture, I don't think I would have. I would have much rather kind of observe it and see what it does than try to get a picture of it. But I think that's the question people get asked so often. Why didn't you take a picture of it? Well, when you're in the moment, that's really the last thing you're thinking of.
Well, all I thought, I'm not proud of it, but I peed my pants when I saw it and took off running. That's how scared I was. And I saw some real bad things when I was in the military back in the early 70s and late 69. And I tell you, nothing scared me as much as what I saw and heard. And I don't know. One of my co-hosts that does a show on my network on Saturdays, he runs a UFO I-team, where they're trying to show proof of UFOs exist. But their main photographer goes everywhere, trying to, get pictures of Bigfoot or you name it. And he was telling, Michael told me what Lee told him is he was out on a logging road way, way out where there was definitely no humans. That's how far he went in. And all of a sudden he was, walking down this path, which used to be, logging road, but it was kind of really getting overgrown. Rocks would come flying across the roadway. And it started out small rocks, and then all of a sudden it started getting big boulder-sized rocks rolling across in front of him. And he goes, you know what, I'm getting out of there. And he turned around and he left. And whatever it was, it didn't go after him. But I don't think there was a bunch of loggers out there, out there throwing rocks like that.
No. I think you have to be a crazy person to do that, because you never know who's armed. I don't think people are just willy-nilly whipping rocks at other people in the woods.
No. And, I also got a guest that's going to be coming on, and I don't know if I want to bring him on or not. He has a group of a couple other guys. They want to go out looking for a Bigfoot, but their idea is not taking a picture. They want to shoot one, kill it, bring it back, and show proof. And I have real strong mixed feelings with that for a lot of reasons. One is going out in the woods and you're shooting at something you think is a Bigfoot. Well, what happens if it's a hunter out there with a big furry coat or something? You're going to take maybe somebody out. Or on the other hand, if you shoot one, if the DNA kind of matches human a little bit, what could maybe happen to the shooter?
Right. And I've heard about, I'm not sure if it's the same group, but similar groups. And my thought is usually good luck, buddy, because I have many, many, many reports of my friend Joshua Cutchin and I are writing a book together at this time, and we're talking about all these kind of weird things that go along with Bigfoot. And one of the things we talk about is what we call bulletproof Bigfoot. And it's story after story after story of these of people shooting these creatures and them not reacting at all. It's like nothing hit them at all. They don't react a bit. There's other stories of, seemingly people shooting them and it's just making them mad. I don't think they'd have much success. And if they did, another thing we talk about in this book is disappearing evidence. If they were to take one down, I can almost guarantee you the evidence would disappear one way or another. A couple of times a year, we'll get stories of hunters who say, I shot one, I killed it, and always the body disappears. Usually they'll say, like, I went to get my buddies and we came back and the body was gone. And they say, oh, well, must have been the other Bigfoot came, got the body and drug it off. But sometimes it ends with, the mysterious black van pulls up to their house and takes the body and they never see it again. This goes back even as far as, there was a skull found in California. It's sometime around, it was around the time where they were making the recordings, because it's in Al Berry's book, where he talks about the Sierra recordings with Moorhead and so forth. And he talks about a skull in there, a very interesting, very large human-type skull, but much larger and thicker than a regular human skull. It's found in California. They sent it off to one university or another. I think it was a university in Arizona or somewhere. And it's gone. It just disappeared. And the similar things happen when people send hair samples through the mail. They tend to disappear. DNA samples disappear. Even these stories of these giant skeletons that people supposedly found, these 7, 8, 9 foot tall skeletons, the so-called giants that they found across America. Where are the skeletons? Well, there's some mysterious place in the Smithsonian that no one's allowed to get. For all intents and purposes, they're disappeared. The evidence disappears one way or another. So that's the case with paranormal evidence across the board. Very, very rarely do you get anything that stays. You might get some hair, you might, be able to cast a footprint or something, but a lot of this evidence just disappears. Happens with UFO evidence too. It goes away one way or another. Very strange. There's something about the paranormal that remains very hard to grasp.
Well, it really does. Art Bell was a friend of mine. In fact, he's the one that got me. I was retired back into doing a show on the internet. And one thing we talked about, probably about 2 months before he passed on, I was talking to him about